Hi, guys. Welcome back. Imagine you lose a ton of weight and you look over at your spouse and they haven't, and all of a sudden things don't feel the same. Do you get a divorce? Do you try to make it work out? What do you do? Today, our YouTuber is Emily Roy, and she's going to be discussing bariatric surgery and divorce. I hope you enjoy.
Once I was feeling good about myself, my attitude changed. I saw myself in a different light, I guess. I felt more attractive in my own skin. I think that we tell ourselves lies about ourselves over the years and years that it takes to typically gain weight. And then you realize it's not coming off, and we tell ourselves a lot of lies about how it gets that way, and about, what we're doing, not doing, what someone else is doing, not doing. And there's nothing we can do to fix it, which is not true. But I think that we believe that over time. And then eventually we just come to a point where we're just not satisfied with the people that we are, looking in the mirror. And again, these are my personal experiences and my personal thoughts about this. So, I mean, if your experience is different, by all means, please share.
I think what she's describing hits the nail right on the head. I think we've grown up in a society where we slowly but surely start to gain weight. We start to lie to ourselves saying, oh, I'll take care of this here in the upcoming months, and tomorrow never comes. And then before you know it, we're watching commercials where experts and doctors tell us that it's not our fault and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it other than a surgery or a medication. I know this is a touchy subject for a lot of folks. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments.
I just think that after a surgery like that, and then you get to the point where you feel so much better about yourself, you feel emotionally stronger, you feel attractive, more attractive, you feel even something like clearer skin, or longer nails because you have better nutrients or whatever. But you maybe wearing makeup more, you have more confidence in yourself, and that confidence exudes outward. People can see that confidence that you have in yourself. And I think honestly, sometimes there's a jealousy card that goes in there too. Like that your spouse or partner might be jealous that you have this newfound confidence.
So a couple weeks back, one of my viewers left a comment because it was a similar situation where, when people lose weight, all of a sudden, sometimes they go through breakups or divorces. And the commenter basically said something to the effect of, Jesse, if you think about it, when a person is overweight, they look at their spouse and their spouse loves them for who they are. Then they go through a surgery and they lose a dramatic amount of weight. And then they look at their spouse and they say, that person loves big people that I no longer am. And all of a sudden they start to get attention from other men and women. And it really just depends on, can you handle that attention and stay committed to your spouse? Let me know what you think.
And I'm sure that I could see there being, arguments about, I've loved you this whole time, regardless of what you look like. But and that's awesome, so awesome. But as a singular person, when you're going through that change, you can love that they love you, and you can love the crap out of that, and that is awesome. But if you don't love yourself, it's so hard to fully accept the love that someone else is giving you. So I think that that's a lot of where that comes from. And I think that it really can facilitate some rocky roads in relationships. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not in the background of my mind somewhere, because I do love my husband. I love him very much. And I mean, obviously we have no plans of any type of failing relationship situation, but I don't think anybody has a plan that happens. It just does. And I think that there's a lot of factors going in there, and everybody's situation's a little different too. But I do think that the jealousy aspect from the spouse or partner has a lot to do with it. And then the increased confidence that you have in yourself, because you're like, wow, this is what I can look like. This is what I can feel like, because it's huge. I mean, it's not just looking different, but it like resets your entire body in the way that you metabolize food, the way that you, your hormones, all of those things to back to some normal level that you probably haven't felt in years and years and years. But again, that's just my 2 cents on, people that maybe end up divorced or, not in relationships anymore. Again, I feel a little bit even selfish saying this. You have to take the time out for you specifically, because if you can't see the importance of getting yourself to a better place, then, I mean, ultimately at the end of the road, your health problems are going to get worse. And hypothetically, you're cutting years off your life. And that's huge. So I think especially with women, we have a lot of hormone differences that kind of go as we go through life stages. Our hormones change, the way that we metabolize things change. Our metabolism starts to change at a different rate and quicker than men's metabolism. So I think that we start to go down that road a little quicker than men do.
I think what it boils down to is you and your husband or you and your wife, when you're going into this surgery, or if she is, I think you guys need to really discuss the idea that more than likely, whoever doesn't go through surgery needs to start eating very similarly to the person that is. And as far as working out, if she becomes a workout warrior, I think her husband needs to become a workout warrior as well, because otherwise they're going to literally start going down 2 different paths. And that's probably the real reason why a lot of people get divorced. So if you're contemplating a weight loss surgery, when you look at all the pros and the cons, I think one of the cons that you should really take into effect is the fact that you might end up losing your husband or wife. And that's just the truth. That doesn't mean that you don't need to go through the surgery, right? But I think that you need to at least contemplate that idea that you could be turning in one life for another. So with that being said, I want everybody to be healthy regardless if they take a surgery on or not. And the way we can do that is to be active. So guys, go get your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Good morning, Venters. I hope you're having a wonderful start to your day. So, we're on day, 47 of this challenge. But I know for some people, today might be day 1. So I just want you to know that I'm thankful that you put your shoes on and you've decided to walk with us. You know, every day around this country and around the world, people are embarking on day 1 of a journey, whether it's day 1 at a new job, day 1 in a new relationship, day 1 being a mom or dad, or in our case, day 1 of being a venter and deciding that you're going to walk. I thought that was being a walker. Bob, that's being a venter. Come on now. So as your first day walking, I just want you to know I don't think you should try to walk at any fast pace. As a matter of fact, if it's your very first walk, go as slow as you'd like and enjoy the neighbors' homes. You know, one of the things that we miss when we're walking indoors on a treadmill is just how fun and how beautiful each and every one of our neighborhoods can be to walk. So again, if it's your first day walking, take a look at your neighbor's yard. Is there anything unique that some of your neighbors are doing that looks really gorgeous that you never really thought about doing to your property that maybe you could? Every day I see people doing attachments to their house or improvements around their home. Up in front of me, a couple houses down, there's that house where we saw the peacock yesterday or the other day, and that peacock was sitting there walking underneath that new railing that they had put up. So they put up this new railing and stuff, kind of like a canopy over their carport. And you know, anything that creates shade, I find impressive. Now, what's interesting about my neighborhood, because there's no HOA, some houses are very pretty. Some houses could definitely use some work. And probably about 2/3 of the houses could use some yard work, definitely. So there are some pros to having your HOA. With your HOA, all the houses look like brother and sister homes, right? They all look related. But in neighborhoods like mine, where it's non-HOA and they've been around for 60, 70 years, almost none of our houses look related to one another. So think about this. In today's modern world, when people are walking around their neighborhood, they almost all look like tract homes, right? Where they all look like they were built by the same builder. Gosh, out here, every darn house looks completely unique. And then because every once in a while people make additions to their home, all of a sudden, this neighborhood here was built in the 1960s. So we're talking, this neighborhood is getting ready to turn, 65 years old or so. And in the last 65 years, the homes have slowly but surely all been painted different colors. So it's almost impossible to even see 2 or 3 houses on the same street that look like they were painted in the same color scheme. Nothing looks the same in my neighborhood, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, some people like that in certain neighborhoods all the houses look similar, you know? So there's pros and cons there. But again, this little metal carport that they put up, which I guess is not where I saw the peacock. I saw the peacock at the next house. But you can see they added a little awning there. And even the peacock house did add an awning, who knows when. But they've got like a little extra awning for an extra car over there. You know, whenever you can keep your car out of the direct heat, whether it's parked underneath the tree or parked in the garage or underneath some sort of canopy, it makes it where when you get in the car and then turn on the air conditioner, it cools down relatively quickly. If your car is out in the direct sunlight, oh my God, it's almost impossible to get it underneath 150 degrees. As a matter of fact, in Arizona, it seems like every year we have 1 or 2 parents that leave their newborn kids in their back seat while they go into the store. I don't know how the heck you forget that your little toddler's in the back seat, but some way, somehow, the kids end up perishing in the back seat. Or, almost as bad, people's pets end up perishing because they go in the store and forget that they have Fido in the back seat. So if you are in a hot area, don't be taking your babies out and leaving them in the back. I always wonder on those, did they do that on accident, or was there a piece of them that was trying to make it look like an accident so they could get out of being a parent? I try to tell myself it's an accident, because if people are getting rid of their children by leaving them in hot seats, what a cruel way to get rid of the kids, so to speak. And hopefully we live in a world where people don't want to get rid of their children. I don't know about you guys, but every once in a blue moon, you'll hear about a father or a mother taking their kids out, you know? And those ones are the saddest stories ever. You know, every now and then you'll hear that a mom went crazy and decided to drive her and the kids into the lake or something. Oh my God, those ones are always heartbreakers. Because every time they show pictures of the kids, they look like these perfect little angels. And then they show the mom, and, the mom's, a little crazy. Sometimes people go crazy as they get older. I always find it interesting that as kids, almost everybody seems pretty normal. But man, you get to the point where we're adults,
And it seems like 1 out of every 2 or 3 of us has a real issue with mental health. I think that's one of the reasons that I enjoy walking. So again, if this is your first walk, you know, it might be a long time before you see anything positive that comes out of your walk on a physical aspect. But if you take the mental aspect, man, just getting out for your very first walk can be real eye-opening. You know, you start to see the beauty of the park in the neighborhood. You start to see the beauty of your neighbors in the neighborhood. You start to see things that also concern you. You might start to see 1 or 2 more homeless people or ne'er-do-wells that kind of make you think, God, that person looks a little suspect, right? So not only do you see the positive sides of the neighborhood, but every now and then you're exposed to the negative sides. And I always tell people, hey, when you're on your walk, everybody in your neighborhood is your neighbor. They don't have to be right next to you. They could be down the street and across the way, right? But the point is whenever you see somebody that's suspect or a little shady, you know, it's kind of your responsibility to keep an eye out for your neighbor's home. So again, if you're ever walking and you notice that one of your neighbors goes out of town, and then on top of that, you notice that there's some suspect characters looking in their windows, you know, the next time your neighbor's in town, let them know what you saw, and they might be able to better prepare and protect themselves for the next time they go out of town. Man, I wish my neighbors would come and tell me every time there's some weird person lurking around the vehicles or around the house. And to be honest with you, most of the time, they do. I think it's important to have good relationships with your neighbors. If you agree, let me know down in the notes. Usually when I cross the street, it's up a ways, but there's so much shade right now that I'm going to try to take advantage of the shade as much as I can. So this time of year, I feel like fate is a little bit against me. It's genuinely tough to talk people into taking their first walk when it's triple-digit type weather. But you guys want to know something? It's going to always be triple-digit type weather during the summer. And it's always going to be cold as heck during the winter, right? What we have to do is we have to get to the point where we can just kind of get used to walking regardless of how hot or cold it is. All right, guy's blowing his leaves. I'll wait till after I get by him. Okay, so we got the guy blowing his leaves. I believe there's a little bit of exercise going on there, right? Holding the leaf blower. I've got a lady over here with her 2 dogs taking them to the park. You know, if you're one of these people that you have a hard time motivating yourself, but you absolutely love animals, but you don't own one, you know, maybe now would be a good time to look in the paper, not the physical paper, a digital paper, right? I don't want you to go back to the 1980s, but maybe now is the type to look into the paper and see if you can find a dog for sale or a puppy for sale, and you could start a walking routine with your new puppy. Sometimes it's hard to get motivated to do things, but if you have a neighbor that's willing to walk with you, or if you have a puppy or a dog that you're willing to take for a walk, sometimes those things make it a little bit easier. And you want to know something? I think a lot of you are going to never find a walking partner. And so that's where I would like to fill in as your walking partner. I've been walking on this channel for the last 137 days in a row, multiple times at times, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep doing it. Look at, there's a cat that we're walking up towards. He's just laying on the sidewalk in the shade, just chilling. He sees me coming. You know he's going to get up sooner or later. Oh my God, this cat's really chilled. Oh, here he goes. Hi, pretty kitty. So guys, is that brown and black coat, is that called brindle? Look how pretty you are. You've got such pretty eyes. Hi. Is that called brindle, where it's like that brown meets black pattern? I think that is the prettiest coat. You don't see that very often. Usually when I see a cat, it's either black, white, gray, or orange, right? And there's not too much in between. And you know what's interesting? I heard a couple years back that people that were natural redheads are actually declining in population. Did you guys hear this? I heard that we were on pace to actually lose most redheads over the next 100 years or so, which seems really, really crazy, right? But at the same time, I don't even see too many red-haired or orange-colored cats anymore. I remember when I was growing up, especially this time of year, in addition to the presidency, there would always be people that would vote for Morris the cat. Do you guys remember Morris? I don't know if Morris was for Purina or what, but he was basically a cat food mascot, right? And Morris the cat was as orange could be. Here's another little kitty. Hi, cutie pie, how are you? Man, if there's one thing that we're not lacking in this world, it's cats. But anyway, Morris the cat, if you guys remember, was an orange-colored cat. And from what I understand, every year he receives a couple of thousand votes to be president, or every year that there is a presidential election. I don't know about you, but you got to be pretty disappointed in your leaders to go out and vote for Morris the cat. But at the same time, he's gotten more votes than probably any other animal combined. And of course, the way you vote for Morris the cat is as a write-in vote, right? I read this story on the Good News Network, and I was going to share it, and then I thought, God, it's not really that special. But I'll tell you a little bit about it without going too much into detail because I forget the names. But basically, this guy was an Uber Eats driver, and he's engaged to be married to his wife, who's also an Uber Eats driver. And what they started to do, because he wanted to buy his girl a really nice ring for their engagement and probably go on a honeymoon, this, that, and the other. So what he started doing is he started leaving notes with all of his customers saying, hey, here's your Uber Eats. Just want to let you know I'm saving up for a wedding, saving up for a honeymoon. If you can donate any money in the form of a tip, that would be greatly appreciated. And one of his writers left that message on their TikTok, and apparently it went viral, and the couple was able to not only save money up or get this money for their wedding, but their honeymoon as well. And there was even enough for them to spend $1,000 to make sure that that original person that tipped was able to attend their wedding. So I thought that that was a good example of how when people come together, we can do amazing things. You know, if you have 1,000 people and they all give, you know, a couple bucks to a guy or a gal that's going through a tough time, my God, do the multiplication, do the math there. You can get to a point where people can raise tens of thousands of dollars just like that. Wouldn't that be cool if every time anybody had any issue in life, they could go on TikTok or Facebook, leave a post, and then just, wouldn't it be cool if people just kind of came through for them? But you want to know something? If we had a situation where it always happened like that, what would happen? Well, the first thing we would do as people is we would ruin it by creating false things to save up for, you know? Oh, I'm saving up for this and that. Will you guys help me? You know, if you help every Tom, Dick, and Harry, pretty soon you're not really helping out people in need. You're helping out people with greed in their hearts. I remember a couple years back, you guys might have heard about this too, there was a couple and they started a GoFundMe account for a homeless guy. And then I don't remember the whole situation, but I believe they ended up raising like close to $500,000 for this guy. And then you come to find out that it was just a big scam, that they didn't end up giving the homeless guy anything. And then the homeless guy ended up coming clean and saying, yeah, it was a big, you know, premeditated scam that we were running. And it's like, man, that just really ruins it for people. Because I don't know about you, let's say you donated a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 to some sort of charity or some sort of idea that you're helping out a homeless guy. And then what if you come to find out that it was just a big sham? When that happens, what's the first thing that you do? You end up closing your wallet, you end up closing your purse, you end up closing your mind off on the idea of helping people. Not because there's no longer people to help, but because people that never needed help are always trying to pull one over on the system. It's really disappointing, but the reality is That's human nature. I think a lot of us have a natural good heart, and I think a lot of us love the idea of helping people in need. But what happens as we become adults, we really don't like the idea of people fooling us. You know, one of the things that used to always bother me, even though I know in my heart it's not really that big of a deal, I never liked when people would say, hey, my car broke down, I have to get to Tucson, so I need to put $5 or $10 in my car, can you help me? And they give you a good story, and maybe they look dressed like, you know, they aren't necessarily homeless, they're legitimately having an issue and they legitimately need to get some gas money. But then you give them $2, $3, $5, and then you realize that they're not taking your $2, $3, $5 over to the gas station and going in their car. They're just going to the next car and asking for another $2 or $3 or $5. And when that happens, it's really irritating. Because I've seen people that'll take your $5 and then all of a sudden you no longer exist, and they'll go right to another guy, and you start to see what they're really all about. And those people ruin it for legitimate homeless people that actually need the help. And a lot of times you'll say, well, Jesse, that person obviously was homeless and just didn't want to tell you the truth. You know, we have scams in life. And I'll never forget, about 15 or 20 years ago, we had a well-known scam, probably happened in your guys' cities and states too, where you would have people that would get out of their Mercedes and go to the corner with a sign that said, you know, we'll work for food, please help. And every time you go up to those people and you say, hey, I've got a job, you know, where I can use an extra couple hands on my construction site, they never want to work. You ever notice that? The will work for food? A lot of people don't put that sign up anymore because every time they do, there's some yahoo that actually takes them up on the offer and asks them if they want a job. And a lot of times they have zero interest in a job. They just want money. So what'll happen is you very rarely will see the will work for food sign. Instead, you'll see signs where people are joking. My favorite signs are where they say, hey, I just really need some money for a beer. When I see that sign, I'm more apt to pull $1 out of my pocket, because I like when people are honest, even if it's not always the easiest thing to be, right? I'm telling you, if a guy comes up and says, Jesse, I'll be a venter one day, can you give me $1 for some beer? Can you guys hear that car? That car is literally way down the street and you can still hear him. And it's 7:15 in the morning on a Wednesday, so don't get me wrong, people should be waking up anyway. But at the same time, this yahoo has to have the loudest car in the neighborhood. He's literally a half mile down the street and I can still hear him. You know, it's weird, it's really interesting. The problem with the world is us. Could you imagine if your neighbor never went out of their way to be too loud? You ever wonder what sets a neighbor off? Why do you have the perfect neighbor and then one weekend all of a sudden he's up partying till 2 or 3 in the morning and you tell yourself, well, it's Friday or Saturday, no big deal. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, all of a sudden he or she, this good neighbor, has turned into a hellacious neighbor, and all of a sudden they're up till 2 or 3 in the morning, every morning playing their music loud. You know, what happens inside of our hearts or our minds where we turn off the world and get to a point where we're rude as hell and we don't care about other people's thoughts or feelings? Those are the things that my head and my heart think about when I'm on a walk. Why is the world so cold now? Why do we only think about ourselves? You know, if you turn on YouTube videos, especially ones about relationships, you'll hear constantly about the narcissist. Everybody is watching a video from a standpoint of they're the good guy and their ex is the narcissist, right? But if you were to ask their ex about them, you'll find out that a lot of times they're just as narcissistic. When you go out in life and you think about yourself and you have this, oh, I don't care what people think about me type attitude, we're told that that's this great attitude to have. Hey, be your own person, love yourself, who cares what other people think? But when we take it to the point where we don't care what anybody thinks, we're just in our own cocoon, and if we make life shitty for others, that's on them, there's something wrong with that, you know? I have never, at 2 or 3 in the morning, blasted my music so my neighbors in my apartment could enjoy my music at 2 or 3 in the morning on a Wednesday. I've never done that. Why? Have there ever been moments where I'm up at 2 or 3 in the morning suffering from insomnia? Could I have put rap music on or country music on, blaring? Yeah, I suppose. By the way, I don't listen to rap or country. I usually listen to 80s music, right? Elevator music, if you will. But there was a time in the high school where I would have listened to some Too Short or whatever, and I might play that music a little bit loud on a Friday or Saturday night up until about 11 or so. But you know, at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, it's time to remember that you have neighbors, you know? So again, it's one of those things where as I get older, I realize people don't really care about their neighbors too much. They like to complain about this evil narcissist in their lives, but they ignore the fact that they're the evil narcissist to some people. And I just feel like if we could get everybody in the world to work on themselves, it would make the world a better place. Could you imagine if you moved into the apartment or home of your dreams, and then all of a sudden you just had a nightmare neighbor move in? Because that's happened to me before. You know, you befriend a neighbor, you let them know, hey, if you ever need any sugar or a glass of milk or something, let me know, I got your back. And then all of a sudden, you know, they reward you by playing music, you know, at 3 or 4 in the morning when you're trying to sleep. Or even better, when your kids are trying to wake up in the morning so they can go to school, and you've got somebody partying at 2 or 3 in the morning. Those are things where if we worked on ourselves and didn't treat people so rudely, my goodness, the world would be a better place. You ever watch those videos where it shows neighbor versus neighbor? You know, you've got this person that lives next to you, but they're your sworn enemy. How crappy is that? Every time you leave your house, you have to wonder, is my neighbor doing something shitty? You know, do I have to put up a camera not to look for thieves and weirdos in the neighborhood, but to make sure that my neighbor doesn't do something to my house or to my property or to my dog? Those are horrible things to have to think about. But those are things that people have to deal with every single day. Why? Because at one point or another, either you or your neighbor or your friend or your foe, you know, just had to do something rude to one another. That house right there is my buddy Justin's house. The other day I said, hey, I just passed my buddy Justin's house. He's a tattoo artist, and I heard that people that are doing tattoos, their revenues and their monies are kind of down this last year or so, because I from what I understand, less and less people are getting tattoos. So my buddy Justin, he's got his own tattoo parlor, and I don't really call him on the regular to see how successful he is, but if money is down, Justin, I'm going to say a little prayer right now. Lord, let more people get painted art on their body, despite the fact that you might be against it, so that my buddy Justin can have a successful life with his family. By the way, I wonder if the Lord really does dislike tattoos and the different things we do to change our body, right? I made your body the way it is. Why did you put this picture of a bunny rabbit on it, you know? Well, I thought the bunny rabbit looked like my inner animal. Yes, you're bouncing everywhere. You're bouncing all around. Why don't you get control of yourself? Look at that. Yep. I don't know if that's the same or if that's different. I just know it's probably the same person. A couple years ago, there was a guy that was going around with a paintball gun, and he was specifically going around in his car looking for people that were doing graffiti. And when he found them, he would go up behind him in his car and tag them with a paintball gun. Now the problem with this is the paint that doesn't hit the target goes right onto that same wall or wherever the guy is. And when you hit the paint, what's it going to do? It's going to create basically the same problem, a big ball of paint on somebody's wall, right? But when you hit the guy that's the graffiti artist, I bet that graffiti artist had to look twice from that point on. So we had this guy that I think got in trouble and he got caught because he was paintballing graffiti artists. But I don't know about you, my thinking is, wouldn't that be great if everybody that was doing graffiti got nailed by a paintball or two for it? I think that would be an awesome twist of fate, you know? And wouldn't it be awesome if somebody caught you when you were painting their car with graffiti and just beat the brakes off of you? Oh my God, you know, you don't really want to be pro-violence, but man, sometimes you just wish you could take the bad person and just beat the brakes off of them, hoping that they would learn a lesson. Man, I really think, as horrible as this sounds, I think some people wake up in the morning and just think, how can I F shit up for people? Do you feel that way too? Think back to all the enemies that you've ever had. Do some of them seem to go out of their way to make your life miserable? And the more miserable they can make your life, the happier they are? Man, I hope all those people grow up to have somebody that goes out of their way to make their life feel as crappy as they try to make yours. I don't understand people. Now, don't get me wrong, some people have a false complaint. Oh, this person's always against me. Well, maybe they're always against you because you tried hitting on their girlfriend. Or maybe because, you know, when you didn't know that they had a camera running, they saw you throw junk at their house or something. You know, there's always reasons that people might dislike you. Some of them are legitimate, some of them not so much. You know, if you're doing evil to somebody else, of course they're not going to like you. I'm talking about a situation where you don't bother anybody, yet for some reason people are magnetized to the idea of bothering you. Oh, wouldn't it be great if those people didn't exist? Wouldn't it be great if you could leave your house for a weekend and not have to worry about people trying to come and take advantage of the fact that you're not there? Wouldn't it be great if every neighbor had your back and every coworker looked out for your well-being? God, I feel like we're this close to having such a wonderful world, yet we all lack empathy. There's no sympathy. And it's one of those things that just really kind of bums you out. So that's why I walk. These little things bum me out. You know how many times I've had coworkers where I've helped them with something through the years? They almost never repay the favor. I used to be in a sales job where I would train new people, not because I was the trainer, but because I wanted them to do well. And I knew little tricks, tips, and techniques to increase one's hourly pay based on the fact that they could make an extra sale here and an extra sale there. And I helped so many people make an extra couple of dollars on each paycheck. How many of those countless people offered to take me out to breakfast or lunch? None. And think about this. Every single day at your work, you have a lunch break. Not one time did any of those people do anything more than thank me for teaching them how to make more money. Well, guess what? That's what life is. Sometimes you have to do the right thing, knowing in your heart there's not going to be any reward for it. I talked to my cousin Raul the other day, and he gave his son $250 for his birthday, but it wasn't really for his birthday. It was a loan outside of the gift that he already gave him for his birthday. And he goes, I know it's my son, so I know I'm not ever going to see that again. He goes, the thing that bothers me is instead of my son just asking me for the $250, he said, hey, Dad, can you lend me this? You know, if you lend money from somebody, don't make them chase you down to get it back. You should want to get it back to them immediately, if not sooner than when it's due. You know, you tell somebody, I'll get this back to you in 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you've got money that weekend. Give them back the money. they're giving you an interest-free, you know, penalty-free loan. Don't take advantage of them by ruining the friendship. And by the way, as sad as this sounds, I've lost the friendship of probably 3 or 4 coworkers through the years because they borrowed money knowing they wouldn't pay. So what I did to switch that up is I just decided that if I'm going to give somebody money, I'm just going to give it to them. And that might be something for you to do too, because otherwise you're probably going to lose friends by lending money just like I did. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for lending me your time.